Hi, it's Dawn here at Stickletown, and it's Wednesday, and I've got another little Wednesday waffle going on. If to excuse the reflection in my glasses, it's the TV is on over in the corner. I was going to do something a bit different today, but when I got up this morning and I heard the news that, see, look, nail polish, distracting myself there. When I got up this morning and I heard the news that Paul O'Grady had passed away unexpectedly and suddenly yesterday evening, I was sort of quite taken aback. And I was always very, very fond of Paul O'Grady. And it just sort of got me thinking, next, on the 1st of April, which is coming up, I believe, next week, is it? Or before then? I don't know, what is the date today? Today's the 29th of March. 1st of April is going to be the fourth anniversary of the loss of my best friend, Maggie, who passed away. She's 52, 53 years old. We've just had the fourth anniversary loss of another friend of mine, Jeanette, that was in January. And of course, also in January was the third anniversary of the loss of my grandson, who passed away in tragic circumstances following a road traffic accident. And yeah, so it's whenever I sort of hear of another one, it sort of brings back people I've lost. And it just makes you sort of realise actually how vulnerable we all are, and how fragile life is. And it just got me thinking today about strengths and weaknesses, and and how we would cope if we did suddenly sort of lose a partner, not necessarily through death, but you could lose them through separation, divorce. You could be having to cope because they work away for long periods of time. I cope with Martin working away short periods of time, and he's away at the moment, actually. But then I sort of got to thinking, how would I cope if he didn't come back? Am I prepared enough for that? And so I started thinking about what I can and can't do, and nobody can do everything, and we've all got our own strengths, and we all have all got our weaknesses, and you have to, I think, recognise what your weaknesses are. And my strengths, I can bake, I can cook, I can preserve, I can grow food. I know some of the basic medicinal herbs and how to use them. I can collect water and purify it, making it safe to drink. I can make a fire. I can cook on an open fire. I can sew, knit, crochet, weave, spin. So, which means I can, make our own clothes. I can grow fruit, vegetables, herbs. I can propagate, harvest. I know how to collect seeds. I can harvest logs for fires. I can use a chainsaw. I can use a handsaw. I can use a log splitter. I can make paper logs. I can make dung logs. I know how to split kindling. I know all about seasoning logs. I can load a gun. Sorry, I'm just reading off my little list here. I can load a gun. I can shoot. I can use a bow and arrow. I know how to kill poultry, pluck and dress, gut fish, collect shellfish. So I've got lots of strengths in those areas. and but then I've also got weaknesses. One of my main weaknesses is a DIY. It's not right, sorry about that, my camera cut out. Yeah, so it's not that I don't know how to do something, it's the knowing how to use the tools correctly, and having the confidence to be able to use them correctly and efficiently. I know enough DIY to get by, you know, all the little basics, you know, how to change a plug, change a light bulb, you know, I can screw a handle onto something if need be, I can knock a nail in, and, you know, all them basics. But if it actually had to come to, oh, I don't know, sort of like repair work, plumbing work, putting up shelves, that sort of thing, that's where my weakness lies, I think. And so I think that's something I need to work on. But as well as the DIY side, the mechanical side, I can use a chainsaw and a strimmer, petrol strimmer. You know, I can get the petrol lawnmower started. I know how to check the battery and top up water and oil, and, you know, put fuel in, how to mix fuel for the different things. I know all that, but I don't know enough about servicing the engines, the motors. I could change a spark plug, I think, if I had to. Yeah, so, and car breakdowns. My vehicle is a bit on the big side for me to be able to physically deal with it. I wouldn't have the strength to deal with it. If I ended up with a puncture, I'd have to call out roadside assistance, because I wouldn't have the strength to be able to jack the vehicle up. I've got, what is it? Because we've just got me a new vehicle, Discovery, Land Rover Discovery. Is it a Discovery? Is it a Range Rover? Can't remember. It's a big vehicle anyway. A bit bigger than my other 4x4 that I had. I think it's a Discovery, actually. And it's too heavy for me to be able to jack up, change a wheel. So I would have to call out roadside assistance. I could change a wiper blade, but as for anything else mechanical, no, it's not really my area. All of that has always been left to sort of Martin. That's his department. And this is where sort of strengths and weaknesses come in. As a couple, we bounce off each other quite well. We've both got our own strengths and weaknesses, and so we can work with each other on them things. And when I first met Martin, he couldn't cook. He could do beans on toast maybe, or a fried egg, but he couldn't cook a meal. And so over the years, I mean, we've been together 37 years, something like that now. Maybe a bit longer. Over the years, he's learned. I've worked with him, and he's learned how to read recipes and, you know, weigh things out and find ingredients and all that type of thing. So he is mastering the art of cooking. He's maybe not as efficient. No, maybe that's not the right word. For example, if the recipe said you cook that for 3 minutes, he would time it 3 minutes. He wouldn't look at it and think, oh, it needs a bit longer. And that's perhaps a bit of a downfall, because we cook on a Rayburn burning logs. Our temperature for our cooker isn't generally like normal cookers. So you have to adapt your cooking skills. And it took Martin many, many, many years to even master getting the Rayburn up hot enough just to boil the kettle. He just couldn't figure it at all. So he would always default to the cooker the hob that we had there. But he has now mastered it, and most of the time he can cook and boil a kettle or whatever on the Rayburn and do his toast, his breakfast and that type of thing, rather than reverting to the hob. So, but it is just strengths and weaknesses. I remember when my mum and dad separated, and it wasn't an agreed separation. My dad came home from work and my mum was gone, and he was suddenly left to raise three daughters and run a house as well as hold down a job. And he didn't know how to cook meals, and he didn't know anything really about housework or how the house ran or anything like that. My dad's job was he went out to work at between 5 and 6 in the morning. He'd go out to work. He would come in again 5 o'clock in the evening. He would have his dinner, chop logs, etc., do a bit of the vegetable growing, all of that's, check the car over, do the oil and all that type of things. And so he was never involved with the actual running of the house, and he used to work 6 days a week. And so, of course, Sunday he'd be pottering around doing odd jobs, DIY. He was very good at carpentry, etc. And he grew a lot of vegetables as well. So, yes, when my mum left, it sort of did throw a spanner in the works. But he taught himself over the years, how to cook. And he could cook very well. So that was a weakness, a skill weakness on his part. And I think maybe that's what I'm saying, talking about really is skill weaknesses. And we have to, think one day, we may well be on our own. I know with me and Martin, one day it's going to happen. One of us is going to be on our own. When I'm not stupid enough to think that we're both going to live forever. And I think in a way, you have to sort of prepare yourself mentally for that. And look to see where your strengths and weaknesses lie, and to see how you're going to cope. Yes, we've got a life insurance, and financially, either one of us would be perfectly fine. But it's not the financial, it's the day-to-day living. And today, and I'm sort of thinking, the DIY side, there's a lot of skill involved in that. There's a lot of strength needed as well for a lot of that. So what would I do? How would I cope with these things on my own, and like the mechanical side of things? And I think I'd probably end up just getting in a little handyman, come in a couple of days a week. But I think, yes, this year I do want to learn how to use more tools, and how to use them properly. So I don't have to rely on Martin to do everything for me when it comes to that. I do have, my own little selection of tools, but they haven't been very well chosen, and some of them are quite uncomfortable to use. So I think I'm going to start looking at building myself up a proper toolbox and learn how to use the correct tools for the correct job. And because that is, yes, a big weakness of mine, and should anything happen with Martin, it could be one day he walks out to me, I don't know. and I'd suddenly been left, especially with a small holding. You know, there's a lot of DIY involved in it. I mean, I've always had a nail gun on my wish list. Like every year, Martin says to me, "What do you want for your birthday or Christmas?" And I say, "I'd have a nail gun." "What on earth do you want a nail gun for?" And I said, "Because I struggle. I don't have the dexterity in my fingers, and I struggle holding a nail and then hitting it with a hammer, because just can't seem to grip it." And of course, and he just says, "Well, I'll do it for you." He says, "But you're not having a nail gun." So I've never had my nail gun. It's still on my list to get because I think it's something I would use a fair amount. So yes, a nail gun is on my list. And one day I will have it. Anyway, I'm going to wind this up now because as you can see, it's now getting dark outside. I've got everybody shut up for the evening and they've all been fed, watered, hayed. Oh, I've just had dinner. I haven't lit the fire this evening, even though I've got wet 2-3 times today. I've got wet outside. I haven't lit the fire this evening. It's not cold. So, yeah, so I'm going to finish me waffling there now and perhaps have a bit of a peruse as to what tools I could start stocking up on. But any advice, yeah, please feel free and I'll catch up with you soon. But I'd love to also know what everybody else's strengths and weaknesses are. Where do your weaknesses lie and your strengths lie, and how do you think you're going to overcome your weaknesses, should you suddenly be left on your own for whatever reason. Anyway, catch up again with you all soon. Take care, everybody, and yeah, that's all I've got to say really today on a Wednesday.